Welcome, friends. Should I say, this is a letter to my American friends. Hopefully one of wisdom and insight. It is also a take note and a big cautionary to the group of 7 nations, which is Japan and most of Europe, the Western hegemony generally, which is Europe and all English-speaking First Nations generally, Commonwealth, New Zealand, Australia, Canada. In fact, it's 80% of our viewership on this YouTube channel. Potentially even 95%. A letter to Americans, to my friends in America. So, America, 4.2% of the globe's population, roughly 330, 340 million people. Currently 63% of global market cap value by stock markets. The next largest being Europe and China, both in and around the 17 and 18%. 63% of market cap versus 17 and 18 is odd for the German, European, and China stock market caps. It's worth at this point, although not the main thrust of the discussion, to say that 63% goes immensely down over the course of the next 2 decades. And particularly the China market cap, but other nations, particularly in Middle East and Singapore, see our trade calls for the STI, the Straits Times Index for Singapore, our technical setups, and the reason why we think Singapore will become the acceptable capital formation place for a lot of mega cap unicorns to come out of China, for which there are already many. So, I get quite a bit in the comments while we're talking about stocks, which is not my primary interest right now. Yeah, what happened to your big crash call? First of all, we haven't specifically made big crash calls. We're just talking about market cap moving away on stock indices. You've got to remember, we're in a debasement time. Everything is financial repression and debasement. What that actually means is debt and the unit measure of that debt, dollar, goes down. So that is a countervailing, a tailwind actually for stock markets. Let's also point out that the US stock market, I think 1% own 50% of the stock market. I saw a visual and I'm going by memory, so call me out if I'm wrong, put a comment down below. But I think 10% is 87%. So 10% of the holders own 87% of the stock market. So let's just be clear. Mr. Average American, who my letter is addressed to, and you're getting it verbally addressed, as a friend of the average American, I certainly am, and I'll come back on that point again. That means 87% of Americans own 13% of the stock market. And I'm talking to the 87%, which is most of you watching. And you Europeans and UK guys that are now seeing the stars, having troubles with the mount today, sorry for that. You're in the same situation as retail investors. You're in the exact same situation. So it goes for you 2 degrees as well. There's an oligarchy of trust funds, offshore entities with trust holding companies, foundations that actually own the US stock market. And it's not you. And in fact, the stock market, as I'm being reminded now, taking out on some of the indices the levels from which it collapsed. So technically speaking, you're almost at, one could say, a new high. It's been a recovery on a V that has led to that new high after a capitulation crash and then a rebound, a violent rebound. As hard as it went down, it went back up. And let's remember, it was peak tariff tantrum, Trump's tariff tantrum, that led to that collapse, when there was a chronic sudden flight capital that saw bonds sell off and the dollar sell off at a time that interest rates were spiking. Goes hand in hand, of course, with the bond sell off. And other charts and posts that I've seen that actually show it is Americans that are the biggest sellers of America. Which brings you back to another note which I said I would refer back to. And that is the following. Everyone thinks I am sitting here with, not everyone, actually very few, but the loud minority that leave comments, think I'm sitting here with glee at their misfortune, like a Schadenfreude type vibe. Woohoo, yay, USA kiddies getting a kick in the ass that they so well deserve. I can and never have felt that feeling, and it's with great sadness that I'm observing what's going on. I am a truth and principle focused person, so I will call it exactly as I see it, and if the news is bad, you're going to get it untarnished. It's bad news. You can shoot the messenger, you can hate the messenger, you can cuddle up to the YouTubers that tell you that Trump is playing 5D chess, stick with the plan. We're winning. The Davos crowd is getting beaten by a masterful plan from the guy you voted in, like you voted yourself some freedom. You can cuddle up to the guys like that, their version of guns, goats, and gold. You can cuddle up to Brent Johnson, who tells you that the US has the trump card because of its hegemony. All these other things can go wrong. All these things can happen. There's no substitute for the dollar. In the end, the dollar's going to super spike and you're all going to have so much buying power over the rest of the world. You can cuddle up to those people because it feels better. It's cuddly and warm. It's kitty mothers stuff, you know. We're all little blind kittens cuddling up to the big succulent belly of kitty mother. It's nice and warm there. It's nourishing there. There's no bad dreams. You dozy off to sleep with a teat in your mouth. You know, you can find kitty mother and Stockholm syndrome up as much as you need to for feel-good factor. The truth of the matter is, to my dear and beloved American friends, is it's pretty freaking dire for all the hegemon. The famous narratives that kitty mothers that are all nice and warm and feed you the succulent anesthetic poison of, hey, everything's fine, ergo the dog having his coffee in the burning basement there, the meme. One of the skills of kitty mothers is, China's got a wrecked property market, look how much debt they got. Europe is a mess, how's it a real alternative? No one's saying Europe's an alternative. No one's saying move to Europe. But the fact of the matter is a hegemon is on the tallest ladder and falls far further than any of the other nations, even ones that are managing to outperform being stupid and doing a controlled demolition, like the UK, for example. It stands on a much shorter ladder. Yes, it's absolutely going to fall off hard, but it's falling off a 3-step ladder. You're on a 26-step ladder. That's the analogy of hegemony. Unbeknownst to many, Indonesia, made up of probably about 280 plus islands, with a population of around 280 million, which is not far off the US's population, particularly if you strip out all the illegal immigrants and other welfare tourists, has joined the BRICS nation and has chosen to align itself with BRICS. And what does that mean? Let's see if our mountings are a bit more stable now as we go down the big hill. What does that mean? Well, it means the following. A 280 million population has joined BRICS. So in actual fact, the BRICS, as a population count, are between 55 and 60% of the global population now. America is 4.2. Even doubling that and throwing in Europe, you're still sub 10 by some way. We're recording the sky again. I'll just survive the downhill and pull it through. So what does that mean? Well, the other thing to bear in mind with Indonesia is the average age of Indonesians is 31 years. It's a young population with a great demographic for the future. America's population is dominated by a boomer generation that are all sucking welfare, Medicaid and Medicare benefits right now, and have stopped paying taxes and are all saying, pay me now for my boomer years, feed me now, and look after me healthcare wise. I've earned it after paying taxes for the better part of most of my productive life. That's actually a cost America can't afford, which is part and parcel of one of the reasons I think we had the intended, that was CV19. It took a lot of people out that were due pension, welfare, medical, and had contributed to that system throughout their working lives. Imagine you made sacrifices, paid your tax, went to war, did what your government told you, paid out of your nose at every turn. A tax here, a tax there, income tax, sales tax, company tax, tax on fuel, tax on house, tax on everything, tax when you die, but you haven't died yet. You do all those things and say, yes, but I'm getting a payback at the end. That's the social contract. I'm going to be getting a payback in the end. Only for those people who took all those contributions from you to actively work against you and kill you at the point where you're about to start receiving those benefits. I know plenty of people that were boomer generation, reaching their holiday, easy life, retirement years that are not alive anymore as a direct outcome of the CB19 genocide. You see, the people who run this world think they have the right to determine when you live and when you die. And if you become a problem for the greater herd, that it's your time to die, regardless of how good a contributor you were and whether you got all that was due to you. That doesn't come into it. In fact, they need you to be a net contributor, and then they need everyone, when they're just about to become a net liability, to be timed out. What a perfect system. You sell people on a lie. We'll look after you when you're older. You can take holidays. You can just be dead weight on the social system. You won't be taxed anymore. It'll just be your pension, which will be tax-free because you've contributed all these years. They sell you that lie. Pay now, get your benefits later. And then they kill you when later comes. Well, that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to continue to do. And it's in fact all what they've always done. The CV19 event is just the one that is for your generation to notice. They've done it countless times in many generations before. They can't afford dead weight. They sell you a lie. And America is a boomer generation based on a lie with a huge liability now that they can no longer afford. That's where we are in this great game. And it's very, very frustrating. And the message for the Americans is, your country and nation is in terminal decline. And some of you guys will say, yeah, we know that, thanks very much. You know, why do I need you to tell me that? And is it just because you're enjoying that fact? And I've already explained. No, no, and no. But you are taking insufficient action in terms of best practice to defend yourself from this situation. That is the actual point. You should be profiting immensely out of your nation's debasement to compensate yourself for the immense cost of living increases you stand to face with the loss of value of your dollar. Sorry, you're looking at my arm and shirt. I'm having a real nightmare. These handlebars taper. They don't stay the same width. And these cameras are designed that it's held only on one end. So when you go over bumps, you have a long end far away that is getting shaken to the hell and gone, I will fix this for next time, rest assured. Even if I have to nail the camera on, that's what I'll do. But going back to the economics of this all, I don't think people realize the change in living standards you're going to face by the currency debasement that is going on. and you're waiting there for that milkshake spike, which if it were to occur would only be a spike. That means up and then down and over. And could quite likely not occur, because you've already seen rates go up and the dollar go down. It's a loss of faith. And I've already explained that some of the highest degrees of loss of faith in the American country is coming from the 1%ers and 10%ers as well. It's not even a foreign attack. The first thing your kitty mothers that feed you the anesthetic of warm mother milk with poison tell you, oh, it's the divorce crowd that are trying to attack America. It was Japan that sold. No, it was China that sold. It was North Korea that sold. It was Iran that sold. It's the Israelis that sold. It were the Europeans. I especially love the divorce crowd. You know, I did a grok on that comment. What percentage of people that attend divorce are European? What percentage are American? Over 62% of the CEOs and the attendants of the divorce forum are American. Let me say that again. 62% of the people that go to the summit in divorce, made up of people like, yeah, Bill Gates and his cronies, Larry Ellison, all of them. So don't listen, just do your research. Don't listen to people that try to tell you there's a hidden enemy that is trying to undermine America, and Trump knows it and has a plan and is doing 5D fucking chess. Some of the biggest underminers of America are American. And you don't need foreign enemies when you've done all the damage yourself. I mean, literally, I could fall off this bike and blame a mate for my injuries. While it was me that was riding too fast, it's me who had an unserviceable bike, it's me who lacked the skills for the terrain, and it's me that fell over. Sometimes what happens to you is a manifestation of your own priorities, activities, and there aren't nefarious actors. In actual fact, I would say China and Russia have been incredibly patient and non-aggressive towards the shithousery and fuckery and game staking and propagandering of the West. We are the bad guys. From Ukraine to the obvious Israel psychopath nation and the ongoing support thereof for essentially annihilating the descendants of Shem, the real DNA-based descendants of Shem, from their own lands, to dropping off food and allowing the psychopath nation to actually fire upon hungry, starving children rushing to the food, where they've also put crushed opium and other drugs and carcinogenics into the food. I mean, what level of Satanism and vile conduct do you need before you ask, am I following my principles? The non-aggression principle, the respect for my fellow man. At what point do you see it as a supremacist genocide? You've got to ask, at a principle level, we weren't the good guys and haven't been for a long time. The US has actually been losing for a long, long time. And it wasn't divorce or lack of guns, goats, and gold that saw the US lose. US manufacturing started to decline. Let's actually go see that kite surfer. There's some nice views coming up. From the end of World War II. Consistently. You cease to become a producer nation. Slowly, and steadily. Nice view there, little boat out there. There's a bit of wind out here today, so there's windsurfers and kite surfers and everything. And again, I'm not dumping on Americans when I say this. These are just easily confirmable facts. And you, as the average American citizen, are not really the ones responsible for those facts. The captured ADL, APAC nation state that you have is. And it is a communism. You've actually been living under a mixed economy with a uni-party communism. You've been living already. So communism ain't that bad. You're still alive and you're watching this YouTube. I'm not saying we should try it. I'm not making a case for it. But the notion that you've been living under a free market capitalism is utter horseshit. You haven't. Nice view there. You've had a uni-party state that's controlled by ADL, APAC. The fact that there's probably only somebody like Massey out there that appears not to be captured. And you thought RFK wasn't captured with some of the things he said. And then you looked, once he got any power, how he changed. So don't even get too excited about Massey. He's an avatar for you. Two guys kite surfing. Well, one is kite surfing, the other one's on his own. Wonder how he got there. Maybe he's doing a collect. He must be the instructor. That's kind of weird. So don't get a new hero. Sure, Massey sounds and says all the right things. Elon's now going to support Massey. You know, he doesn't want the big bill through. But Elon supported Trump. All you'll do is keep pivoting and being disappointed each time and expect you to trust his credibility every time. We got a new hero. This guy will change it all. We'll back him for president next time. Then we'll win. We're going to vote ourselves freedom one of these days. You know, Massey for president. Yeah, that'll fix America. No, it fucking won't. Nothing fixes America. Nothing. Nothing fixes America. You are not a production nation anymore. You have massive deficits with Europe, who is a socialist conglomeration that is entirely political, not economic. And you run a deficit with that conglomeration. You run a massive deficit with China, and you actually blow up pipelines to force Europeans to buy energy from you rather than from Russia. Otherwise, you would have an even worse deficit. You're a terrorist nation that attacked another nation's infrastructure. Not you personally. Not you decent American person, goes to church on Sunday, brings his kids up with honesty as principles, speak the truth. Not you. Your captured parasitic governments of the ADL, APAC, warlording, universal, across all nations governance. They've done that. They've done that in your name, and you're going to pay for their crimes. Ask every white South African. Ask every person who's white European nowadays and you don't show up in adverts in your own nation where you're indigenous. And they're rewriting history, telling you that brown people were there before you and King Arthur was brown. You're going to get the victimization of what's coming. Do you really want it for the rest of your life? Do you really want to hang your head in shame for things you didn't even do? in people that weren't acting sincerely in your name. So he's going to do a tow of that guy. Don't know what had them be out here. I wonder if it's a recovery. So, manufacturing in America has been declining since World War II. The divorced people, who are 63% American, didn't manufacture that. Better living standards in your world, more office work, did that. Cheaper production offshore did that. Globalization did that. But you didn't replace it with enough. Just Rockefeller funded Californian garage mystery water unicorns did that. That's what happened. And those things are moving. Technology is moving to Dubai. So let's share a little bit of travel. Not all of you travel as much as me. I'm on planes way too much for my liking, actually. I was going through Dubai yesterday. That's right, yesterday. Trump Tower, Dubai. He went to Saudi, did a bunch of deals. They even committed to buy Trump coin, which is just a more obvious named scam token than Bitcoin, which is the original CIA NSA digital money scam. It's just a looky-likey of the original scam that's yet to unravel. But don't worry, Srinipath, or whatever his name is, psychopath, the Indian guy, is telling you over 1 point whatever million for Bitcoin by the end of this cycle. The cycle ends typically October/December. You've essentially, and we're the 1st of July, by the way, today. Happy second half of the year to you all. I love every one of you who supports. Nothing I say is directed to hurt you. Nothing I say is personal to you. It never has been, it never will be. You can take it personally, that's down to you. It's the 1st of July, happy second half of the year. Fake number day is on Thursday today. Let me just remind you and tell you. Non-farm payrolls, fake number day, which has been revised so far this year downwards by 215,000 jobs. So every number that you were given on fake number day has subsequently been revised down for just about every single month. You have shed, of the claimed jobs in the first half of this year, 215,000 of them. That's right. Just on admitted revisions. Remember, the full revisions would be far more brutal, just like the real inflation rate. It is an absolute ruse. It's an absolute ruse, especially when you consider the increasing non-participation in the economy. The participation rate of the population in the economy. Lost people. 6 months without a job, hey, you don't count as unemployed anymore. You're just non-participative. You're not playing in the game. You found no one who would give you a semi-decent wage for a semi-decent day of work. So now you live cheaply and poorly and try save your way into retirement, living like a pauper. At the same time, your cost of living is absolutely rocking. The dollar is in double digits of loss for this year so far. To my Americans, happy 4th of July Day on Friday. Your dollar has lost double digits this year. That's measured against other shitty nation fiats. Gold is ripping to the tune of, for this year, I don't even have an accurate number, but it must be close to 40, maybe 50% for the year. That is the true inflation measure, and it is screaming. It is absolutely screaming. These edges regularly crumble, and we see the rocks. I've watched this coastline change. I shouldn't get too cocky here. I doubt the weight of me and my bike would do that, but you don't want to get too close or be unlucky. So happy 4th of July Day. In my letter to Americans, fake number days on Thursday, and you will barbecue. And all I ask is you watch this video and you show it to your friends over the barbecue. Say, there's a South African guy on a desert island who travels around a whole bunch, been to America many times, always gets on with American people, doesn't have an axe to grind, that is telling you that the quality of life in America is about to erode substantially on a rapid rate. In a rapid way. Like bankruptcy, it starts slowly, like the production waning in the post-war years. Let me tell you, America lost the Vietnam War, they lost the Afghanistan War, they technically lost the Iraqi War, they lost the Ukraine War. You are losing so many wars at such great cost to citizens, life, debt. Oh my God, they love it. The hyenas, arms dealers, politicians, and intermediaries between the never investigated military industrial complex, dark state, CIA, Mossad axis, absolutely feast on wars. They are the carcass-eating hyenas that eat your son's remains. That's after they've sold the oil through Tel Aviv and the central hub of organ trade. They've arrested rabbis in New York for organ harvesting and trading from war zones like Ukraine right now. Young men, barely alive, are more likely to have their organs cut out of them and transported than saved. Think about that. For vampire, when you pay your tax, you are funding that conduct. You all pay too much tax, and you are paying it to the most evil of people. You all pay too much tax, and you are paying it to the most evil of people. Russia's tax, 20% corporate, 15% personal. That's your tax in Russia. A communist country. That's your tax. I've said it before, it's the most unpopular thing I ever say on this channel. Westerners need to leave their home nations. It's the most unpopular thing I say. It is the most revolting thing to say. It is the most perplexing thing to say. But radical times require radical solutions. Let me tell you something behind whatever success you consider me to have had. And I'm a wealthy person. I don't need to think about buying it much. If I see something I wanted, I can buy it. That doesn't mean I do. But I can. And I don't buy anything on credit. You know, if I want a sports car, I call up Porsche, 911 the car please, might tempt me, here's my credit card number, I can have it, deliver it, whatever. I don't have to think about it. And I'm not trying to, that's not a humble brag or anything. It's just, I've been able to make some money. And I can tell you, one of the key things I did to build wealth is not be in a shit place during a shit time. Everybody thinks it's all about you. It is very important that you get your attitude right, your work ethic right, your motivations right, and you execute correctly. But let me tell you, a lot of ordinary people, like me, because I'm not special, have got rich by being in the right place at the right time. Be an average executor, work average hard in the right ways, on the right things at the right times, and get pretty damn wealthy. And be consistent and keep showing up. I was in South Africa. White people were persona non grata. There was no employment. Even for MBAs, 6 distinctions, couldn't get the work. It was the country of my birth, the country of all my friends, the country of my family. My parents were there. And I upped and I ducked because I didn't see it changing. I didn't see it changing for a long time. I hadn't benefited from the previous cycle, just like Americans who are non-boomers, haven't benefited from the boomer cycle. Why must you pay the bill of the boomers? No one sends you a letter and says thank you for your tax and paying the bill of that big mistake we made that we admit to by giving too many benefits to a boomer generation because we wanted to win the politics game and ensure they voted for us. So we never made them pay for anything. We always put it on debt, and now you carry the tab. I went somewhere where I could get hired. I assessed the situation. It was the UK in the end that I went to at the time, a better UK than it is today. Everyone was telling me, oh, we had a terrible property crash. I was watching the booming globalization trend that was taking place. I saw that we'd have low interest rates for a while. I predicted that there would be a second wave UK boom. I started a property company and I was selling £6 million worth of property, bought wholesale from developers to people's buy-to-let portfolio within a year and a half with one other partner, a mobile phone, a Google AdWords account, and a good message about here's an asset class that's going up, we can help you invest in it and have a cash flow neutral with a tenant. And we did that for many years. We paid ourselves great dividends. We didn't have much to claim in tax, apart from AdWords. We bought ourselves company cars. You know, we drove a Bentley GT each until they changed car laws. We had problems. We had tax problems. We were making so much money. And then I saw it end. I saw how it came. I saw how the valuers lost their heads. I saw there was a pump. And I knew there was a dump. And I saw it come to an end. All things will come to an end, my friends, that are based on fraud or deception or not based on sound money. All things will end. When you're staying at Claridge's every weekend and selling your freeholds for hundreds of thousands of pounds with huge multiples after you've sold all the apartments to investors, it's very difficult. You're eating at Gordon Ramsay restaurants and going to the Cartier tent, the special private Cartier tent at the Goodwood Festival of Speed to see fast cars. You're driving track day Lamborghinis. You're living the best life. You don't see it come to an end. It came to an end like a jolt, it comes to an end. I'm here to tell you, don't lose your head. What cannot continue will end. And I'm here to do, in this letter to the American friends, dear American friends, I'm here to tell you that what cannot continue will end. Don't hyper-normalize every day. I still go to work. The sun still comes up. I still have a job. I still have a salary. My wife still loves me. My kids still love me. I still make my car payment. I don't know what this guy's on about. Don't hyper-normalize this like a continuous stream video. Take a snapshot of the 1930s and the 1922, just less than a decade before it. Take a snapshot of 1982, when Warren Buffett was just worth a few hundred million. He hadn't even cracked $1 billion. Take a snapshot to the day he stood down and what Captain America said after telling you you won the lottery tickets in life, being born in America. I worry for the deficit, I worry for the debt, I worry for the dollar. I have no idea how any of it gets solved. I stand down from Berkshire Hathaway here onwards, and we hand over to the next generation. The man who did investment because he loved it, not because he needed the money. He stopped all forms of frontline work that he loved. The Federal Reserve is lying and cheating to you. The interest rates remain dangerously high and will likely go higher. $56 k's per hour there. Normally when I'm not camera riding, I push it into the mid-60s. That's quite fast for me on a mountain bike on a rocky road. Anyway, you don't need to live out the hatred that's going to be directed at you, because it's not just financial damage you're going to face. You're going to face the blame for what they did. They're very good at that. They transfer the blame. It's the psychology, it's the psyop you're going to have to live through. You're going to live through 3 decades of the equivalent of the psyop. You know, the lies. My vaccine doesn't work because you never took yours. You know, that bullshit. You're going to live through it till you die. You will all be dead and you'll still be, yeah, but it's you guys that consume so much, you brought this on yourselves. I'm warning you of what you think I am. People who say, it's a good thing you had it coming, you supported Israel, you did all those wars. Am I to feel sorry for you? This is how their pitch is going to sound. Stuff you. You deserve hard times. You deserve to be lied to and reneged on. You deserve what your government's doing to you. They're going to break the social contract. They're going to keep killing boomers. They're going to cut their social deal. They're going to definitely cut it back for Gen X and the ones after and the ones after. You're all going to have to pay more tax. They're going to go into scavenge mode. Tax scavenge mode. What happens? You see, when they wanted to go to war, if they said to everybody, hey guys, I'm a politician, I want to start a war in Afghanistan. It's a $3.5 grand tax bill for all taxpayers. Please sign up We're sending you the invoice. Please send your payment so that we can commence the war. How many Americans are rushing off to make that payment and send in their receipts to the government? None. So when they want to enrich themselves, they have a dirty little trick. They don't tax you directly. Note the use of the word directly. They put it on a debt tab. This big crazy number that very few people focus about and think doesn't mean anything. They put the tax bill on a debt tab. And they went to war with debt. It's still money. The military industrial complex are still being paid dollars. The arms dealers are still being paid exorbitant fees. Most of them with double passports, Israel. CIA, Mossad are still skimming and scamming. You don't even know how much they're skimming and scamming. Things could be so much cheaper than they appear to be. One fighter plane, the F-35, a very flawed fighter plane, $109 million. Believe you me, it's not worth that. Believe you me, there are supernormal, absolutely supernormal profits on that. You'll see the deal makers and the contracts, you'll see how much are being paid to them because of that. Ukrainian Russians, lots of them here. So, they put it on debt and you pay in inflation. Inflation is your tax, debasement of your currency. And what's happening now is we're on the disorderly end. We're on the disorderly end of debasement. And as I've said before, that convexity curve, slowly you gave up your production and then very fast. It all ended up in China. Let's be clear. They decided wrongly to do a battery car revolution. It's not the way. It shouldn't have been decided. It was political, but they could have ensured that they can do track and trace surveillance if they put you in a big iPhone. That can actually pick you up and drive you to a police station and lock you in a cell, literally. Someone can just offload you into a cell. So they like that idea. They like the idea of you losing autonomy over driving. Something that they controlled remotely that could transport you. They really like that idea. They like the idea of cameras and self-driving and data collection. And every camera has a microphone, just like your LG TV that is listening to you. And asks, are you still watching when you're quiet? You have to confirm you're still there. They're not getting any data in of what you're talking about for their ads and more nefarious things for the Mossad, CIA spyware. So, they went battery cars and we had capitalism to a degree. Everyone competed. And the best battery car company won. Do you know what its name is? Give yourself a dunce cap and sit in the corner if you said Tesla. BYD. BYD is the winner of the battery car and truck revolution. Yep. Now Americans watching this are going to go, what? White boy, you're fucked up stupid. You don't see them in America. Why? Because they're tariffed out of existence. You'll buy a better car for $30,000, BYD, than you'll get for $45,000 from Ford and GM. Ford and GM, if there was free trade, would be closed right now. Let me state that again. Ford and GM, if there was any form of real competition on this battery revolution, would already be bankrupt right now, or receiving quantitative easing or money to stay in existence. I'll say it again. BYD does on 30 grand what you need to pay almost 50 for in America on a vehicle, and including bigger haulage vehicles with battery. It smirks Tesla. It's far superior to Tesla. Yet Tesla has an unbelievable market cap, all sold on data, cameras on your face, microphones in your car, data. What does he say? What does he see? One day your car will be a private taxi company earning shekels for you. Yeah, like hell. They're going to let you get that income. It'll be conglomerated and run by Rockefeller Inc. like Amazon, just like you can be an online book reseller. It'll be conglomerated with a super site and super servers and super marketing. That sees you have no chance. You're not going to be a taxi operator because you have a driverless car and a passive income earner, but they'll sell you that fucking dream all day long. Tesla's lost out completely to BYD. If you travel, you'll know. BYD is everywhere, and other brands like it. They have superior battery tech, longer lasting, greater power, quicker rechargeability. They win on all counts. If the game is battery, Toyota's going to go hydrogen. Okay, I'm not having an ideological argument about how we should drive auto vehicles. I'm just telling you, America lost. So did Europe, so did a lot of places. But they put 100% tax on BYD, and I think Trump put a further 50%. So Ford and GM don't have to compete. They'd have to compete with a 30,000 BYD costing $60,000, maybe $75,000. That's the only time Ford and GM's versions of vehicle look remotely competitive. When you put that level of penalty on a superior operator. That's where we are. You've lost the wars, you've lost the battery fight, you've lost production. Your biggest export is debt and currency. Let me say it again, and it's chronic, and everybody suddenly realized it. It's reached a tipping point where the sustainability is no longer there, and everybody's now focused on it. That's where you are. You want to ask? I'll do a live stream before non-farm payrolls. I'll show you a P&L, and I'll show you 5 different markets that I'm trading. A soft commodity, a currency pair, 2 different precious metals, possibly 3. What else? That's already enough. And let me tell you, they're all green, and they were all actually dollar debasement trades. Even though the currency one doesn't even have the dollar in it, it's the Swiss franc JPY. I'll explain then why the JPY is the wholesale funding mechanism for the carry trade and can't be allowed to go up against the dollar, otherwise we'd have complete crisis. And that actually the setup was better against the yen than it was the dollar. But it's actually a dollar debasement play. Because Japan is a slave nation at a financial level since World War II to the US hegemony, and is tied to that mast as much as the United Kingdom is. I'll show you the soft, I'll show you which one it is, I'll show you the precious metals ones, which one they are, I'll show you when I went long and when I went off, I'll show you what I've made in a short time, in a 2 months of trading. We have a fake number coming this Thursday, which will be revised lower. Almost certainly, because in most conditions, that's what happens. I'm only telling you the trend and the probability of that trend. We will have that fake number. It'll come out. You'll be able to trade it on fake number day with us, non-farm payrolls, on our live trading day, and you will see the P&Ls, and every single one of them is a different way of expressing the same thing. They slightly they invariably are correlated to dollar strength, but they're not perfectly correlated to each other. When one rests, the other one goes. Sometimes they go together. I'll give you the targets and I'll give you the trade. We are focused on helping you build wealth in reset times. We're focused on helping you retain that wealth in reset times. We're focused on giving you optionality towards freedom. And hunkering up in the rural areas of the States is one way of seeing this out. I'll be talking to Bill Holter later today. He's going to do that. But actually, that's one of the few things I disagree with Bill. Not being in a dollar system, not being in America for a big downdraft, which goes back to the lecture I started on. It's not actually it's not only about your talent, it's about where you are. Do you see the opportunity? Are you in an environment for growth opportunities? Or are you going to try perfectly execute in a very difficult environment? If I'm trying to build wealth, I want as many things and as many tailwinds in my favor. The United States as hegemon will have the worst growth dynamics, the highest cost of living, and the greatest re-rating in standard of living that any nation has ever faced. And with it, some of its allies will be very close to as bad. You can choose where you see this out. There's a storm coming. You can live on the wind-protected side, on a house that has deep foundations, is storm-protected, plenty of heating, backup reserve power. Or you can stay on your reed hut on the windy side because the surf's good. And everyone says the storm's coming, and as yet the surf's still good and your reed hut is doing just fine. But you need to think about where you're going to see this out, because the law, the legal system, the police, the martial law, the draconian aggressiveness of state has to go up when hardship goes up. Do you understand that? This is a very important time. They don't get all sorry and meek in hard times. They get more totalitarian. They don't go, hey, yeah, we screwed all you generations for the boomers. You really should resent us. We're sorry. Yeah, I can understand you don't want to pay your taxes. Yeah, no, we really cocked up. No, 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 no. They tell you it's all you. They tell you you did this. And now it's your chance to make it right. And you need to pay more, work harder, and do more. And if you don't, you go to jail. If you call out the government, you're hate speech and you get a social score that marks against you. That's what's coming for America. Totalitarianism. It's going to be such a stark change that'll make living in Russia and China almost seem pretty chill. That's what's coming. And with that, I end this epistle as my letter to Americans with a very dark message. Not for drama, not for headlines, not for, ooh, you're so street, you really, say the meanest shit. No, no, and no. There is no other way. History and rationale shows that this is eventually every aspect of how it goes down. The harder it gets, the more totalitarianism. The more clear and obvious the lie, the more they will lie, and the more they will punish truth tellers. The more fake and destroyed the money, the worse your standard of living. The more you've done to protect yourself against that, the more you are an enemy of society. And the more you should be taxed and possibly even jailed for buying pet rocks and undermining state. It was a gold bubble that destroyed the dollar. You have been warned. I'm putting you on notice. this 4th of July, talk to your friends and family about the death of a nation, the corruption of its politics that led to the corruption of its money that is now in serial decline. From losing wars to losing the debt-based dollar. It's being rejected the world over, and Americans are at the forefront. Those 1%ers and 10%ers are at the forefront of dumping everything. They keep the music playing. It feels like hyper-normalization. The Titanic is sinking. They've paid the guy to keep tinkering away on the piano, and you're all still dancing. The water's already filled the hull. The angle is already changed. The chairs are shifting down. They say, don't worry about that. Carry on. It's a good party. Have another glass of wine. The 1%ers are filling the few lifeboats that exist with their family, with gold and everything else, and they're getting ready to abandon you on ship. And they will move like the parasites they are to shores anew, to feel and to farm the new opportunities of upswinging economies in a period of absolute downturn for America. Where do you want to be? Do like they do, not what they say. Do like they do, not how they say what they do. Till next time, I'll talk to you again. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Tired of profit wipeouts and blown accounts from following trade signal groups? Looking for a better way to trade? Why not be part of a principled, structured, and technically based community set inside a unique trading methodology? Enjoy a constructive learning environment while practically trading markets, supported by a bespoke platform run through browser or app, specifically designed to teach and engage you whilst learning and growing as the markets move. This is not a Telegram or Slack signal group. All trade ideas are based on a proprietary technical analysis process honed over decades, which is the HVF method, leading to trade ideas with fast-moving breakouts and tight stops, exact entries and exits, nuanced interim considerations, and ultimately strong rewards. Submissions are graded and scored by Francis for potential high-quality setups, and we provide bespoke tools to help get the job done properly and with precision. Over time, and with focused effort, you'll begin to look at charts, price action, and markets in a whole new light. Community updates every day by Francis and our 3 webinars a week provide a 360-degree approach, which are presented by our experienced team of trade leaders to spot potential trades. We're a community of self-actualized individuals, spanning the globe and active 24/7, 365. The premium community provides a warm, supportive, and cooperative place for people willing to listen, participate, contribute, and to learn. Transform your approach to trading now. Transform your life. Book an introductory call with us on the link below.